Ladies and gentlemen, up next on our lead stage, make some noise for Kristen Drapeau, the Jeunesse Scientific Advisor.
Hello, everyone. What a great place to have an event. Having a great time? Okay, thank you so much. I'm here to talk about Revita Blue. What a great place to have an event. So Revita Blue is the result of 18 years of research in the field of stem cells. But I think it's interesting to understand or to know that it didn't start one day with the idea that, man, if I developed a product that taps into this cool new topic of stem cells, that would be awesome. It just started following the very traditional scientific approach, which is to make observation, express hypotheses, go and test them in the lab, and as you move forward, we slowly develop this whole concept that there are plants that can have an effect on your own stem cells. And that's what led to the development of Revita Blue. So first, let's talk about what is a stem cell to understand the whole topic. The best way to describe or define what is a stem cell is to first define what is not a stem cell. Almost everything, do you have it there? Not yet, okay. Almost all the cells in your body are called somatic cells. These are cells that are specialized. They do one specific thing. They will never transform, and to a large extent, they will never really multiply. So it's the cell of your pancreas that makes insulin, the cells of your retina that will respond to light, the cells of your heart that will pump and contract. They will do one specific thing, and you will never go to the gym or work with Mark McDonald, and he will tell you to work hard, and then suddenly you're having micro tears into your bicep. You don't have a cell of your skin looking down and thinking, gee, the muscle needs help, I'm going to go and become a muscle cell. It won't happen. Somatic cells are what they are, and they stay like this all their lives. At the other end of the spectrum, you have stem cells. Stem cells are cells that are really, they're nothing. They do absolutely nothing in your body, meaning themselves as being stem cells. Their role is in their ability to transform into other types of cells. So, and that's the magic. Now, historically, traditionally, stem cells from the bone marrow, I'm referring here to adult stem cells, meaning after birth, to make the comparison between embryonic stem cells, which is coming from 8 to 10 days old embryos. So after birth, our stem cells have been historically known to only be precursors to blood cells, white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets, and that's it. But early 2000, 2001, scientists started to make observation that stem cells from the bone marrow had the ability of becoming brain cells, heart cells, liver cells. At first, it looked like something unusual, bizarre, but then it continued. Scientists started to show that stem cells could become cells of virtually every tissue in the body. Now, early on, in this beginning of times, so in the early 2000s, on the basis of the first few observations, what my colleague, Dr. Jensen, and I thought was that if stem cells can become liver cells, heart cells, and brain cells, why not pancreatic cells? Why not skin cells? Why not lung cells? It has to be that we simply have to continue the research, and we will see that they can become every cells of the body. And if they do become every cells of the body, then it is the body's repair system. So we published this article in which we proposed stem cells constitute the natural repair system of the body. With what I will show you today, it will appear so obvious and so common sense that it's almost hard to understand why an idea like this was controversial not too long ago. But just to point out, when we published this about 18 years ago, we were laughed at. Like, this is nonsense. Fast forward 18 years later, and today there are thousands of scientific studies that back up and document how this works in the body. So here's how it works in the body. Anytime you have an injury or something is not functioning properly in your body, the affected area of the body will release compounds that will reach the bone marrow and will dislodge, detach from the bone marrow, stem cells will then get into the circulation and will start to circulate. As stem cells circulate in the bloodstream, so the increase in the number of stem cells is going to be anywhere between 3 to 10 times. So let's say after a bone fracture, after a heart attack, after a stroke, these are the studies that were used to document this whole phenomenon. You will have an increase in the number of your stem cells 3 to 10 times. Natural phenomenon. It just happens. As stem cells are circulating everywhere in the body, they don't know where to go. So how can they find where to go? This is why sometimes after a heart attack, people hear voices. It's the stem cells saying, "Where do I go?" No, it's a joke. Just wanted to make sure you were listening. So stem cells don't know where to go. So how do they identify the organ that is in need of repair? Is that starting on the second day, the affected tissue releases other compounds that will attract stem cells. So as stem cells circulate everywhere and they go into the fine capillaries, fine blood vessels of the affected area, those compounds released locally will trigger the migration of stem cells out of the blood into the tissue. In the tissue, stem cells will keep detecting where these SOS molecules are coming from. The stem cell will crawl to the site of the injury, and upon contact with cellular debris of that tissue, it will trigger the transformation of stem cells into cells of that tissue. Isn't that beautiful? It is a beautiful process that is taking place in the body. And if I were to make a small parenthesis here, I just want to really underscore the amazing breakthrough that this is in science. We didn't do it. This is the work of hundreds of scientific teams. The last time that we discovered, by we I mean the scientific community, that we discovered a system in the body, it's the endocrine system in the early 1900s. What is a system? A tissue, an organ, a group of tissue that will do one thing, like your cardiovascular system with the heart will beat, will do work. Other cells will release compounds, like the brain cells will release neurotransmitters. Your endocrine organ, like your pancreas, will release hormones. Let me give you an example. If you take an apple and you want to feed your skin, so you rub it on your skin, it's not really going to help. All it will do is that you'll smell apples. You need to feed the skin. So what do? You use your musculoskeletal system to chew that apple. It falls into your digestive system that extracts the nutrients. Your cells are still not fed. So it puts it into the cardiovascular system to distribute it to all the cells of the body. All the metabolic debris from digesting these nutrients are now put into the lymphatic system that is then removed by the kidneys, by the liver. So you get the idea. Systems are parts of your body that will do one specific thing to support the good living or the sound living, the health of the whole organism. I should say the survival of the whole organism. You have a cut. You have a bacteria that gets there. You have the lymphoid tissue that contains immune cells that will respond by releasing immune cells that will travel everywhere in the body. But where will they finally end? They will end up right by the bacteria, and they will kill the bacteria. That's your immune system. Now we're talking about the bone marrow that releases a specific cell called the stem cell that will go specifically where you need repair, and they will go there to actually repair your tissues. We have literally discovered a new system in the body. It is that magnitude what we're talking about here today. Okay, so in all of this, what has been discovered into this whole phenomenon here is that the most important aspect, or at the very least, the aspect that has been the most studied, is the release of stem cells from the bone marrow. Because we have tools, these molecules there that are released by an injured tissue, we know them, they're well quantified, well documented, we can use them. If we inject them into an animal or a person, we can trigger the release of stem cells from the bone marrow. So the consequence is that we have more stem cells in circulation. So a lot of the science about this has been to link how many stem cells are in circulation and health. So far, so good? Okay, so let's look at, well, I won't have the time to go into a lot of the details, so let's jump to the conclusion and I'll show you some examples. But the conclusion is simple. More stem cells in circulation means that more stem cells are available to participate to the process of tissue repair. It's really that simple. More immune cells available, more are available to participate to the immune reaction. It's the same, it's very simple. What it means in reality, it means if I've got two people with the same type of injury, the one that has more stem cells in circulation will simply repair faster. That's simple. The corollary to this, if I have a person who has whatever the problem, and we can put more stem cells in that person's blood, that person will then start to repair better. Let me show you one example. I want to be clear here. The studies that I'm going to show do not imply, it is not the intent at all, to imply that Jeunesse Product or Revita Blue will do these things. I'm using these studies because in science, we never study health. We study diseases. And these are the studies that I have to rely upon to be able to show and illustrate this whole phenomenon. So here's a study that was done by the National Institute of Health, in which scientists triggered a heart attack in mice by stopping the blood flow to the heart. Then they let the animal recover, and then they separated the animals in two groups. One group was control, to which nothing was done. The other group was experimental, in which they injected these famous compounds known to trigger stem cell release. So the only difference between the two groups is that the experimental group had more stem cells in circulation. When they looked at the animals 27 days later, in the control group, you can see very significant scar tissue in the ventricular wall, no new blood vessels, 17% survival, and fairly severe signs of heart problems. In the experimental group, all they had was more stem cells in circulation. We've got quasi-complete renewal of the ventricular wall, new blood vessels tapping into the other ventricles, 73% survival, and quasi-normalized cardiovascular function. So in a world where nothing can be done to really help someone recover from a heart attack, here's a study showing complete recovery. Interesting, at the very least, isn't it? The reason why this, I won't go into the detail, but that protocol as used in this experiment with mice cannot be used like this with humans for various reasons. But the reason why I'm using this study is to clearly illustrate that if we do put more stem cells in circulation, the body has the biology, the machinery. It has what it takes to use these stem cells and apply them to tissue repair. Good enough? Next conclusion, which is the corollary to the first one, which to me is probably the most important, what I want you to really learn today, is that conversely, fewer stem cells has been associated with a higher risk of developing problems, meaning that among everybody, the people who have fewer stem cells, they are the people that can look at sort of problems in their health showing on in the not too distant future. So let me talk about this a little bit more, because that to me is really the take-home message. Today in the world of medicine, we generally view health or the development of health problems as just a slow curve. So you're born, you mature, when you reach 20, 25 years old, you have peak health, and then from there on is just a slow downhill curve, isn't it? Well, what stem cell science is telling us is that it's not the case. Health is actually a balance between two active phenomena in the body. On one end, you lose cells every day, but you also replace them every day with stem cells. So when you're young, you have a lot of stem cells in your body because all your bones contain red marrow. But as we age, slowly the red marrow transforms into yellow marrow, which is fatty marrow, so we release fewer and fewer stem cells. And there's a point where we cross that line where basically we have not enough stem cells to replace everything that has been lost. Let me put a very simple analogy. You've got a bank account, and what we're telling you is that your health is that you need to have as much money as you need to back up your expenses. As long as you make as much money as you spend, you're fine. The day that you don't make as much money as you spend, that's when problems start to show up in your life. Okay, so with all of this here, what makes the difference between someone who develops diabetes, someone develops heart problems, Parkinson, need a titanium knee, whatever the problem? It's a series of factors And you know all of them. It's your genetics, your past injuries, exposure to environmental toxins, your lifestyle, your ability to rest, your diet. All these factors, you know them very, very well. So the common denominator here is that you have fewer stem cells, and the problem will show up in you in a way that is your own because of these different factors. Let me give you a simple analogy. You've got somebody who cannot pay for his car payment, somebody else cannot pay for their mortgage, somebody else cannot pay for their health bills, and somebody else cannot pay for their school. So we've got car problem, house problems, education problem, and health problems. But in reality, all we've got is money problem. It's the same thing. It just shows up in people in different ways according to circumstances. It's the same thing here. The point is that fewer stem cells in circulation makes you not renew as well as you should, and the problem will show up wherever the weakness is for you because of these different factors. The way to show this is to basically go and count the number of stem cells in the bloodstream of people who have developed various problems and compare that with healthy individuals. Let's look at a few of these studies. Here's a study in which scientists quantified the number of stem cells in circulation in people who have developed that are at various stages in the development of diabetes. So we have at first normal glucose tolerance, impaired fasting glucose, impaired glucose tolerance, and the diagnosis of diabetes. And you can see it's a straight line. As people advance in the health problem, they have fewer and fewer stem cells. Here's another one. This is a study in which scientists counted the number of stem cells in the bloodstream of people who complained of erectile dysfunction. So to the right, you got patients, and to the left, you got a normal population. And if I bring back now the averages on the axis, you can see that people who have developed or complained of erectile dysfunction have on average about half the number of stem cells found in healthy individuals. Now, if you take all these individuals and you establish their international index of erectile function and you plot that with their stem cells, you get a straight line. There's a direct line, and erectile function is all vascular function. So that's basically telling us more stem cells in circulation means better vascular function. And that has been seen across the board with a lot of different kinds of health problems touching various aspects of human health. It's been seen with the kidney, lung function, liver function, overall heart function, almost any aspects of human health that has been studied so far, there is a relationship. People who have developed the problem have, on average, about a little bit less than half the number of stem cells that we find on healthy people. So the big conclusion here is that more stem cells in circulation, better stem cell function is simply going to help your body repair better, but renew better every day. Because one thing that is super important to understand is that today we can be in good shape, but the way that we look at health in our society, it sounds ridiculous, but how do we define health in our society? The absence of disease. You define health by the absence of disease. Go and see your boss and say, you know what, I feel that I might have a heart attack in 2-3 weeks. I need about 2-3 weeks in Hawaii. You won't get them. Then you get your heart attack, then you can have your 6 months in Hawaii. But everything is defined by the problem. And yet we all know, 10 years ago you climbed stairs 3 by 3, 5 years ago 2 by 2, 2 years ago 1 by 1, a year ago 1 by 1 slowly, 6 months ago 1 by 1 slowly, you stop in the middle to catch your breath, then you get your heart attack. It didn't start on the day of your problem. Everything is this slow evolution, and the reason why it evolves is because you don't have enough stem cells to basically compensate for what is slowly happening. So to me, the biggest conclusion of all of this is that today in the world, the best approach for health is prevention, isn't it? Prevention medicine. Tell me, if I tell you the best way to be wealthy is to prevent poverty, is that a good strategy to you? It's not. You'll never be wealthy by preventing poverty. You'll never be wealthy. You'll never be healthy just by preventing the big problem. You can really reach optimal health if you discover what is the health system of the body, and then you basically tap into that system and you support what that system is doing in the body. So to me, what we're talking about here is that it's giving us a leverage to just do more than just going along and being able to say, I don't have problems. I can now basically say, my body has what it takes to be the best that it can be, so that we can reach optimal quality of life to achieve what I want to do in life. And so that's really what we're talking about here. So to me, this is much more important than just repairing a problem. So now that we've talked about all of this, probably you would like to know what you can do to put more stem cells in circulation. If not, I can leave it here. You'd like to know, right? Okay. So when I started all of this, the first product that I worked with was this blue-green algae called Aphanisomum flos-aqua. People consuming this product were reporting a broad variety of health benefits, and we were not able to explain how this was happening. What could this product be doing to bring benefits to the heart, to the lung? Other people it was the liver, other people it was the skin, the brain, nervous system overall. So it was touching so many different aspects of human health that we were not able to explain what it was doing until the day that we developed this stem cell concept and we went into the lab, we tested it, and as we give AFA to people, we can see within an hour that follows an increase in the number of stem cells in circulation. It has to be clear, we're not talking here about the product does not contain stem cells. It's your own stem cells that you release every day in a very, very natural way. And all we do is that we just kick a few of them in the tush and they get back into circulation. So you have more of them in circulation. That's really all we do. But it makes a big difference for your health. So when we discovered what AFA was doing on stem cells, it was impossible for me to think that having evolved like this in symbiosis with the environment, that AFA would be the only product that supports stem cells in the body. Just like when you discover that echinacea has an effect on the immune system, it cannot be the only thing in the world that has an effect on the immune system. So I started to look at other things that could have an effect on the stem cells, and I stumbled a few years ago on sea buckthorn berry. Sea buckthorn berry is a very, very interesting berry. It originates on the Tibetan plateau and in that region, and from there it was spread throughout the world pretty much, but really it originates from that region. The scientific name for sea buckthorn is Hippo phae, which means Hippo is horse, phae is light. It means shining horse. And it comes from Alexander the Great, traveling in western China during his conquest, and at one point he abandoned a herd of wounded horses and left them to die in a field of sea buckthorn. And when he came back a few weeks later, he found a herd of healthy, vibrant horse with a shiny coat. And a horse with a shiny coat means a healthy horse. So they harvested the berries, the leaf, give that to the soldiers so that they could recover like the horses. Genghis Khan reported exactly the same thing. So from there, it was incorporated into Tibetan medicine, Mongolian medicine, Chinese medicine, and it is today. And I went to Tibet, I visited monasteries, talked to Tibetan doctors. They use it for all these reasons: lung conditions, digestive system, cardiovascular health, to help the body recover from injuries. So when you start also liver, pancreatic function, when you start to look at an effect like this on many different tissues, my thought is that there's probably an effect on stem cells. So we made an extract, we tested it in the lab, and that's what we found. Within a few hours after consumption, we have an increasing number of stem cells in circulation. Again, your stem cells that you release and you put into the bloodstream. So there are more ingredients in the formula. I won't go through all of them. These are the key ones. So we've got the sea buckthorn, we've got the AFA. We also have added two other ingredients, aloe vera extract and beta-glucans, because in the scientific literature, these ingredients have also been documented to support various aspects of stem cell function. So the purpose in the development of RevitaBlue is really to maximize the number of stem cells into your blood circulation, to give back to your body its natural ability day to day to just renew itself and repair itself. So what it will do for you, support the body's natural renewal system. It's the primary objective. So I want to make sure here that we understand. In the body, stem cells will go where they are called. It's just like your creditors. Your cash will go where they call it. So in the body, whichever the area that is in need of repair, this area will signal, stem cells will go there. So if you have a way of putting more stem cells in circulation, this is where stem cells will go. So it's a product that can be taken for one specific application. I have, I don't know, problem A, B, and C, and I would like to take Revita Blue for that problem. You can, but keep in mind, stem cells that are released won't go where you want them to go. They will go wherever they are called for in the body. So you're basically tapping into the body's own intelligence. You give it the tools to do what the body does from the day that it's born, is to maintain its own health. And it has some secondary effects, supports immune function, has some antioxidant protection because of what sea buckthorn does, aloe does, beta-glucan is also known to do. Okay, as a conclusion, what I would like to talk about is something that from day one has really impressed me with Jeunesse product. When I started to work with Jeunesse, Dr. Donna Intar told me, you've got to go and study the other products that Jeunesse has because you'll see a very, very interesting synergy. And that's what I saw. Not only are these products top quality science-based products, but the way that they work together and the way that they work together with Revita Blue, to me, is profoundly impressive. I don't think I could have found a company with products that are more complementary than what we have here. So let's first start with Reserve. When you release stem cells in the bloodstream, I won't have the time here to go into the detail, but there's one thing that can prevent stem cells from seeing where they need to go in the body. It's like a smog into your body for stem cells. And it is background oxidative stress and inflammation. So if you can reduce oxidative stress in your body, you can support the role of stem cells. So you take Reserve, it does what it do. You take Revita Blue, it does what it do. But you take the two together and suddenly you get a leverage. You get a synergy where what you obtain, it's much greater than just the sum of these two products. Luminesse. Luminesse contains peptides. The role of these peptides is to, basically the way that the skin works is that you've got a layer in the skin that contains skin stem cells. They come from the blood circulation. They migrate to that layer with skin stem cells, and these cells basically produce new skin cells every 2 weeks. It's a very, very active process. But these stem cells come from the blood. So Luminesse contains peptides that will do a number of things. Among these things, attract stem cells from the blood, support their proliferation, and support the formation of new skin. It's just what skin does. It doesn't do any miracle, it supports the basic functioning of the skin. Now you take Revita Blue, you put more stem cells in circulation, and then you apply Luminesse. You've got more stem cells to attract to the skin. So again, you amplify what the product are already doing. Play with them together. You've used Luminesse before, you haven't seen all the benefits that you were expecting. Now do it with Reserve and Revita Blue and see what you get in terms of results. When stem cells reach a tissue, one stem cells can become several thousand tissue cells. So when you release 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 million stem cells, that is the potential of 10 to 20 billion tissue cells. When you do this every day, you realize that it's an enormous metabolic demand on the body. So you need to have all the vitamins, minerals that the body needs. You get that with AM/PM. You also need to have all the amino acids that are needed to really build, to rebuild new tissues. Now, there's a very interesting synergy here with Zen, and I won't have the time to go into all the details, but let me just briefly touch on them. Zen is sort of a lifestyle program. It's made to transform your body, give you lean body mass, make you more active. So as you do this, you need to mainly do two things. And I'm not stealing the show here for Mark. He knows way more than I do how these products are working. But basically, you first need to manage your diet, and then you need to have some physical activity. Managing your diet, when you take Revita Blue, one of those secondary benefits is that it gives you some sort of an experience, mild, but of appetite suppression. So you'll see that if you take it between meals, then you don't feel as hungry. Okay, so that can help in the whole process. Secondary, as you start to have physical activity and start to exercise, either because you didn't do before, now you start to do it more, it happens sometimes that there's a little bit sores, pains, and joint issues arising right and left. Have you experienced that before at least once in your life? Yeah, you will see that these are micro injuries, and if you put more stem cells in circulation, they repair much quicker. So as you blend these two together, you will have a much better experience. The last one to talk about is Reveal. I cannot skip it because Reveal is more or less luminous for your hair. In your scalp, the skin is a little bit different than other places. It has a much, much higher concentration of hair follicles. Hair follicles have their own stem cells. They're called hair follicle stem cells. Extremely potent stem cells. If you create a spinal cord injury in a mouse and you inject hair follicle stem cells in the spinal cord injury, the animal recovers mobility. They are that powerful. You don't want to do this on your head, of course, but what you do is that they become dormant. They're not active enough. So the peptides in Reveal, the intent is to basically reactivate them, draw some from the blood circulation, bring them back in the skin, and sort of reactivate this whole layer of the skin that should be active into your scalp. So do Reveal, it works, but now do Reveal with Revita Blue and with Reserve. And then see what it does for you. So my message with all of this really is that you've experienced these products, you know them, but go back to square one and start to play again with them by combining them with Revita Blue and then see what else you get in terms of results, because there's an amazing synergy between these products. And the outcome of all of this, truly, whomever came up with this tagline is a genius, because that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about making you immortal. What we're talking about is we're trying to make you the best that you can be. So your best you. And that's what you get with Revita Blue. Thank you so much.